So I was thinking about, the national park here and the wonderful job that the people do here. They made us really, really good friends of them, and they were very friendly to us. And when I come in here, I feel like part of the family nearly, and the surroundings are magnificent. So I started to think about AE up here, and his interaction with nature and the spiritual side of nature. So AE had two sons and a daughter, and the daughter died in infancy, and she was called Maeve. And so when she died, AE and Violet went up to a place called Kiltartan, Michael says it's near Poole Park, to sort of mourn or whatever. And he painted this painting when he was mourning. And it's the only painting that both him and Violet signed, the two of them signed this painting. This was when he was mourning the death of his only girl child. And so this is his comfort zone is nature, and it's trees. And you can see how green it is, and that's what he was trying to cheer himself up with. So that's really where AE that's his comfort zone is nature. So we'll move. Let me just move this right on. So what I'll read here is a wee bit from Lady Gregory. We'll start to talk about Lady Gregory here first, because she'll sort of explain the Irish Literary Revival and their beliefs. From the most ancient time, our ancestors have regarded as spiritual and given names to the trees, fields, rocks, rivers, lakes, and mountains. We have written mythologies, poems, songs, and legends about our natural surroundings that permeates our character, and we call this character the Irish diaspora. AE said, I was excited by the literature in which the seers seemed to have gone into a divine nature and come back dark and shining and God intoxicated. I had imaginations merging my spirit in the spirit of nature. That's what AE believed in nature. So Lady Gregory said that trees vanish very quickly, and a clump that has taken years to grow is gone in a day. And those words were written just over 127 years ago by Lady Augusta Gregory. If woods, like friendships, are not kept in constant repair, the day will come when they will be but a memory, she wrote. And she wrote this in the Irish Cooperative Movement's journal, The Irish Homestead, which of course was edited and managed by AE. We are not likely to have more lasting monuments put over us, she wrote, and we cannot have more gracious ones than the living, rustling trees that we had planted and that we had loved. She wrote that Ireland, more than any other country, ought to be a country of trees, since the letters in the modern Irish alphabet are derived from the Ogham letters named after the trees. A. Russell recommended the spirituality that could be gained by living close to the land. He painted scenes of woodlands, agricultural fields, and midland bogs, most of them with human figures in the landscape. Joyce represents him as saying that the movements which work revolutions in the world are born out of the dreams and visions in a peasant's heart on the hillside. For them, the earth is not an exploitable ground, but the living mother. So this one here really, Michael did touch on it. AE's grandmother died in Black 47 during the famine. And this would have a big influence on, a lot of his economics, because he wanted to break the cycle. Ireland just didn't have one famine, by the way. It had one every generation almost. And AE wanted to break that cycle of famines and create a new economy through the cooperative movement that would sort of stop the famines, really. The Irish Literary Revival was a reaction. It was a cultural preservation to the Great Famine, during which AE's grandmother died. And it was similar to, we had the annals, the great monks from Donegal here that wrote the annals, and they were doing the same. They were preserving all the culture of Ireland and its history and, its character, really. And that was because of obviously the plantation. So this culture revolution or preservation, the Irish literary revival. They weren't just involved in literature; they were involved in all aspects of the Irish culture, and they were trying to preserve it all. So, really, where did it all begin? This is this is Lurgan Park. It's second only in size to Phoenix Park. Beautiful place if you ever want to visit it. And sort of, I can't if it had a pointer anyway. I thought, the red circle over here is where AE was born. This red circle here, and of course this is Lough Neagh, which would have been a big influence on him. There's a lot of mythologies about Lough Neagh, a lot of gods in Lough Neagh, and it was the very first people to settle in Ireland actually settled around this shore. That was the Mesolithic people, and they brought their gods with them. And so the god of Lough Neagh is Hockey, the god. It's actually being polluted at the minute. You know, you've probably seen it on the TV. It's being destroyed. So this is a birthplace of our nation, and we're allowing it to be polluted. But we'll not dwell on that too much. So later on in life, he would come down to this one. This is where he would live, in the park, the Brownlow's big estate. And it was a magical place. To this day, it's still magical. Like. So he wrote, it was an excitement of spirit for one born in a little country town, so that life seemed to dilate into a paradise of beautiful memories, and to reach the past ages and to mix with the eternal consciousness of earth. And when we come on what is new, we pause to contemplate it, and do not hurry to the end of our journey. That was in the Candle of Vision. This reverence came to me as a boy. I suppose we better move on now. That's the lake again, and you can see a lot of them houses wouldn't have existed, you know. So, but the lake is still there. And it's still beautiful, and that's what it's like at night time. That's the castle, Brownlow Castle, in the background there. And you can see how magical it is. So, this was a painting he did, thinking back in his memory. And you can see the poem there, effervescent. It flickered mid the daffodils and danced their gentle dance, then rose up slenderly in air. It was as still as a trance. It entered in the magic thing, into your being flowed, through lips and eyes and fluttered hair, its precious substance glowed. So he was seeing these figures as a child then in the Lurgan Park and the daffodils and things like that there. And he come from an evangelical background. They were Church of Ireland, but he went to the Primitive Methodist Sunday school, which was very evangelical. And so he coming up this evangelical background, he couldn't understand. The evangelical background didn't explain what these things, what these visions he was having. It didn't explain that. So he spent all his life trying to, figure this thing out. And this is where a lot of his spiritualism came from. And even if you see some of his poems, you can see a lot of evangelical Christianity in some of his poems, believe it or not, even though he was a theosophist. This reverence, did I read a bit? This reverence came to me as a boy listening to the voice of birds one coloured evening in summer, when suddenly birds and trees and grass, tinted air, myself seemed but one mood or companionship, and I felt certitude that the same spirit was all. So there's another painting similar to this one, and you can see, most people miss a lot, and you can see an actual spirit in the background there as well. If you look closely at it, there's no spirit in there. And so a lot of his paintings have this hidden metaphor in them as well. If you look carefully at them, there's bits in them you can't see. Do you remember I showed you another painting upstairs? So another wee thing he wrote was, a friend I greet in each flower and tree and wind. Oh, but life is sweet, is sweet. I hope to enable us to understand the language which the gods speak to us through flowers and trees and natural forms. So AE may be one of the forerunners of a new culture in which mankind will find its spiritual rebirth. So we can learn a lot from what AE was telling us, and the respect we should have for the earth, and treat it as it should be treated, as a spiritual thing. So, we have people here who are experts on Ali Young, and she really did that in America. Ali Young actually really inspired the growth of the hippie movement. And she saved the redwood forests in America. She saved them from their destruction. So that was one of AE's proteges. Ernest Boyd visited AE up here in Port Napla in 1912, and he said he painted, composed, and meditated, communing with that nature which was vital and alive in all its aspects, as man is alive and vital in all his members. Russell's visionary experience reminded us that the very earth is holy, and permeated as it is by the life of spirit. He believed he was on friendly terms with the winds, the mountains, and would be granted an insight into the destiny which the great powers are shaping for the Irish in this isle, the mingling of God and nature and man in one being, one yet infinite in number. Padraig Colum has described in a few words the true strength and appeal that we feel in AE's prose and poetry. He said, "One has the sense of hearing a deep sound in nature, a sound that becomes more significant as one listens to it. How is it that these short poems, very many of them only 3 stanzas, give one the sense of fullness and profundity? It is because they are all glimpses of the same river of vision. To this day, specific isolated trees and bushes across the Irish landscape are left alone in reverence and cautions for their presence." So AE had an experience, probably in Lurgan Park, when he was walking past these poplar trees, and he got to one of the poplar trees, and he went into one of these visions, or he believed he was transmuted to India, and he started to live a life as a child in India. And he ends up getting killed, and when he gets killed, he then reappears out of the next tree. So he really believed this to happen. So he's transmuted in these. He was having these things happening to him, and they said the evangelical background didn't explain it. Now, Michael touched on the Starry Plough flag. This is actually the original Starry Plough flag. The one that Michael put up was one that was redesigned by McGahey for the 1916 Rising, and that was the politicised one. This flag originally was not a political flag. It was for the workers of the 1913 lockout. So it wasn't, well, I suppose you could call it a wee bit political, but it wasn't the emblem that it has now been used as. And, almost every political organisation in Ireland now uses the flag for their own ends. But it was for the workers that he designed this. And as Michael said, it was an amazing, if you think of the concept of it, it was for an urban people. He bring an agricultural implement. So why? Well, the Starry flag plough was unveiled and designed by A.E. Russell for the Irish Citizen Army in the 1913 lockdown. The co-founder of the Irish Citizen Army, James Conway, said that a free Ireland would control its own destiny from the plough to the stars. So, what do we know about the Starry Plough constellation? Well, it's called Ursa Major, or the Big Dipper. And it's visible all year round. And I think that's the clue to, this is the controversy now, and this is the bit that told Michael, I didn't want to tell Michael about. So what is this? What does this remind you of? The swastika. So this was obviously an American one, but it was North America. It's the same thing happens to us, only we don't use the word fall. We would call it the autumn. So it's circling around all the time. And A.E. was known, believe it or not, as the North Star. And he didn't call himself that. Other people called him the North Star because of his guidance and his direction and things like that there, So, due to the Earth's rotation, the plough appears to circle around the North Star, maintaining its presence in the night sky across all seasons. However, its orientation changes throughout the year, making it useful as a celestial marker for navigation and stargazing. In India, it's referred to as the Saptasarishi, which means the 7 rishis. The Sanskrit term rishi meaning a sage or a saint. 7 bright stars, mysterious constellation of the 7 rishis in the Great Bear. Egypt held them sacred. India has connected all these symbols to the ages and ages ago with time or the Yuga revolutions. And the Saptasaris are intimately connected with our present age, the dark Kali Yuga, which AE called the Iron Age. He referred to what's happening in the world, specifically even more now, the Iron Age, the heartless time, it's not soft anymore, it becomes the Iron Age. He called it the Iron Age. People don't care anymore. They've all got hard and iron instead of being caring. She goes on to say that the Bhagavad Gita Purana scripture, which A was an expert in, called the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Great Circle of Time. 7 rishis mark the time, the duration of the events in the Septensarian life cycle. These are the mysterious, as they are supposed to be the waves of Pleiades and reveal mysteries of the occult nature. So A's big hero was Madame Blavatsky, of course. You probably recognise. You might recognise that cross yourself. You've done a lot of work on that, and you can see what's on the top of it there. So this symbol, it wasn't the Nazis. Of course, they politicised it and used it for their own ends, but it was a very ancient symbol, and all over the world people used it, and it's a symbol of goodness. It wasn't an evil symbol. It has certainly become one now, and that's it on St. Bridget's, on the cross at St. Bridget's Well, that's down in Sligo, isn't it? Down Sligo direction, yeah. You can see it there, but there's lots of them all around Ireland. These wee swastikas on different things. Madame Blavatsky, who was his good friend, says that the so-called Saptarshishis is mysterious. The plows associated with the cycles of time, especially connected with the Kali Yuga, the Dark Age, presently underway on the earth, they are symbolized as lying across the lines of the circle of time. The swastika is a word of Sanskrit meaning the origin of be it or a man. The swastika is an archetypal symbol whose wide dispersal around the globe. The Theosophist lands confer the swastika as a symbol of primeval gnosis found in the prehistorical paintings and carvings literally all over the world. Europe, India, the Americas, of course in Ireland. An ancient symbol of life and success in India from at least 2000 BC, or 200 BC, sorry. A religious symbol of the Hindu culture. It also appears in the Jain and the Buddhist religious art. So you'll be glad to know that we're finished with the swastika now. So as you can see, there's the Pleiades. Just showed that there. And the Pleiades, of course, is a big thing in Mary Poppins, where has a big party one time, and all the stars come to visit, and Pleiades is all there. So in Mary Poppins, there's a lot of metaphors. It's not a children's book. It never was meant to be for children, but children love it. And there's a lot of theosophy and mysticism that they had handed down till Pamela Travers, all through it. If you know where to look for it, like. But Pleiades is a big part in Mary Poppins and some of the sequences in it. And this is Pamela Travers with AE, and as Michael said, she came up to stay with him here regularly, and there's a lovely story. In fact, I'm not sure if she hasn't. It's maybe one of his sketches he did of her, but she has a big pair of boots on her, and it's because they're going over Breggy Head, and he puts these big boots on, but they're massive for her, so he fills it full of newspapers. And she loses her boots on Breggy Head, so I tell the people around there, Mary Poppins' boots are stuck up in Breggy Head, But she spent a lot of time here. I think when Michael, I'm not sure if he mentioned it there, but when he died, she came up around this area and stayed in places that he would have stayed. Almost certainly she would have been here in Glenveagh. Just definitely was in Marble Hill, and stayed in the wee cottage in Marble Hill just to get the essence of him again, So If you watch the Mary Poppins film, you'd see the bit where he's chucking this. Bert is based on AE, by the way. Bert, the chimney sweep. And that's why he has all the different instruments and all the different. He's a myriad-minded man. He could do everything. Like he was involved in all different things. So that's why she has him playing all these different. Bert, the chimney sweep in Mary Poppins. A. Russell, because he was an economist, an agriculturist, a mystic, a poet. So that's why he's playing all the different instruments. But and early on in the film, he's sketching this painting, or on the ground, drawing it out, and he tells them that the magic is behind the trees, and they jump into this magical world behind the trees, right? So both George Russell and W.B. were born into a rich tapestry of folklore, heritage, and they synthesized these traditions with modern mysticism. It's steeped in metaphor and mystical exploration. The writing and paintings are emerging philosophies of this time and are explored in extending the tensions between the spirit world and ours. The cultural roots were deeply entwined with the mysteries of nature. They had a profound influence on Pamela Travers. And I told you about that bit about the chalk and the paintings. So Iron Soul, it broke the wrath of the Iron Age and the weight of the Iron Powers. This was AE talking in 1919. And the last slide, hopefully, is AE looking at the future. Is this the future we're going to leave ourselves? Are we going to destroy treeless land? A 1,000 years hence, this is AE's painting of 1,000 years hence. And if we don't do something, this is why this place is so important here. They're preserving that nature. And if we don't we'll end up at something like that in the future. I think there was one more. You ever get to Ely Place? Beautiful murals. He did these beautiful murals in Ely Place. And if you ever get to Ely Place, you can go in, well, if you're polite and ask, they'll let you in to see them. And you can see this beautiful mystical world and the planets all around it. So I said it wasn't going to take you long, and I finish on that. Thank you very much.